Welcome back to the Mythical Vault. Today, we explore a part of Buddhist cosmology rarely discussed in detail, but filled with profound lessons: the Eight Great Hells, or Narakas. These realms are places of immense suffering, where beings experience the consequences of their past actions. However, in Buddhism, these are not eternal damnations. They serve as temporary states where beings atone for their negative karma before being reborn elsewhere. As dark as they may seem, each of these realms holds essential teachings about the nature of life, the power of our actions, and the path to living with greater mindfulness and compassion. The Narakas are divided into 8 major realms, each one more harrowing than the last. As we begin this journey, let us remember the Buddha's teachings on karma. Every action has consequences, but all suffering is impermanent. Through understanding, reflection, and practice, we can avoid the paths that lead to these realms and guide ourselves toward peace. We begin our descent into Sanjiva, the first of the great hells. The first hell, Sanjiva, the hell of revival, a place of endless suffering. Imagine a barren, desolate wasteland. The ground beneath you glows a menacing red, as if it has been heated from within by an eternal fire. The air is thick with smoke, and the sky above is a swirling mass of dark clouds and ash. The smell of burning fills your senses, and everywhere you look, the land is dry, cracked, and glowing with heat. In this realm, those who inflicted harm on others, whether through violence, cruelty, or the delight in causing pain, find themselves caught in a cycle of endless torment. Here, demons or creatures of the realm wield blazing weapons, using them on the souls who wander this forsaken place. Suffering in this hell comes not from a single moment, but from repetition. Every time a soul is struck down, they are revived, only to experience the torment again. The landscape itself is alive with fire and heat, embodying the constant cycle of destruction and rebirth. Though terrifying, Sanjiva teaches us a crucial lesson. The harm we inflict on others reverberates beyond our understanding. Every act of cruelty, every moment of violence, creates consequences not only for the victim but for the perpetrator. The suffering here is a reflection of the suffering they caused, multiplied and returned to them. But even this suffering is not eternal. When the karmic debt is paid, the soul is released, reborn into another realm. It reminds us of the importance of compassion in every action. As we move forward, the intense heat of Sanjiva slowly fades, and the ground beneath us begins to change. We arrive at Kalasutra, where the landscape is no less bleak. The second hell, Kalasutra, the hell of black lines, stretches out before us like a desolate battlefield. But instead of soldiers or weapons, there are dark, ominous lines that crisscross the scorched earth. These lines, long and perfectly straight, divide the land into endless sections. It is a place where the very ground bears the marks of karmic misdeeds, representing the deceit and dishonesty that brought souls to this realm. In life, those who were dishonest, who lied, cheated, or betrayed the trust of others, find themselves here. The black lines are etched not only into the ground, but also across their bodies. Here, these beings are marked as if ready for a punishment that matches the deceit they spread in life. The demons of this realm use sharp blades or fiery instruments to slice along these lines, causing immense pain, but the marks never fade. The cuts represent the divisions they caused through their deceit. And just as they divided others, now they themselves are divided by pain. This suffering is a reflection of the way dishonesty tears apart relationships, trust, and communities. Each line, each cut, symbolizes a lie told, a promise broken. The black lines stretch out endlessly, just as the consequences of dishonesty can stretch far beyond the initial act. But again, even in this painful place, there is a lesson. Integrity is vital for peace, both in life and in the karmic consequences we carry with us. When the debts of dishonesty are paid, the soul is allowed to move on, freed from the lines of deceit that once bound them. As the sharp edges of Kala Sutra begin to blur, we feel the ground beneath us shift and tremble. We are now entering Samghata, the third hell. Samghata here, the crushing hell presents a scene of unbearable pressure and force. The very air feels thick, as if the weight of the world is bearing down upon us. Massive iron mountains, blackened by the heat of a relentless sun, loom on either side of the horizon. These mountains, impossibly large and foreboding, begin to move toward one another with terrifying speed, crushing everything in their path. In this realm, those who caused division, who stirred conflict among families, communities, or nations, now experience the crushing weight of their actions. The iron mountains close in, grinding the bodies of the souls trapped between them, flattening them under immense pressure. There is no escape, and the process repeats again and again. Just as they caused strife and division in their lives, now they are crushed by the karmic consequences of their actions. This hell is not only physical but symbolic. The weight of division, of creating discord, is heavy. The suffering endured here is a reflection of the inner turmoil and conflict these souls once unleashed upon others. But as with all the Narakas, there is a path to release. The soul will endure this crushing pain until the karmic weight of their actions has been balanced. And once the lessons of unity and compassion are learned, they will move on, reborn into a different realm. As we leave the oppressive atmosphere of Samghata, the crushing weight fades. But the next realm brings a new kind of agony, the cries of despair echoing from Rarava. The fourth hell, Rarava in the hell of wailing. The landscape is ablaze. Flames lick at the sky, casting an eerie glow over the molten ground below. The souls in this realm run endlessly, fleeing from the fires that surround them. The air is filled with the sound of their cries, desperate and piercing, as they seek refuge from the unbearable heat. But no matter how far they run, there is no escape. Those who find themselves here were driven by insatiable greed in their previous lives. They hoarded wealth, exploited others for personal gain, and never satisfied their endless craving for more. Now, they are condemned to chase what they can never attain relief. The fire that surrounds them is symbolic of their own desires, which burn so brightly in life, but only consume them from within. The lesson of Rarava is clear. Greed is an endless flame. The more we feed it, the more it grows, consuming everything in its path, including the one who wields it. In this realm, the souls experience the consequences of their boundless greed. But the wailing is a reminder to those of us still in the human realm. True peace comes not from hoarding or desire, but from generosity and letting go of attachment. The cries of Rarava fade into the distance as we step into a darker, even more terrifying version of this realm, Mahararava. The fifth hell, Mahararava. This is the great hell of Wailing, where the suffering is even more intense. The flames are hotter, the ground more treacherous, and now the very earth seems to rise against those who walk upon it. Serpents of flame coil beneath the surface, striking at the souls who wander through this land of torment. Their bites are agonizing, and the wails of the souls grow louder as they try in vain to escape the creatures that pursue them. These souls were not only greedy, but used their power to exploit and harm others. In life, they abused their authority, causing immense suffering for personal gain. Now, the serpents are a reflection of the poison they once spread, biting them as their actions once hurt others. In this realm, the message is stark. Power, when misused, becomes a curse. Those who abuse authority or harm others through greed will eventually face the consequences of their actions, both in this life and beyond. The suffering here is a reminder that true leadership requires compassion and wisdom, not exploitation. The serpents of Mahararava strike until the karmic lessons are learned, and once the debt is paid, the soul moves on, free from the consequences of their greed and abuse of power. As we leave the burning landscape of Mahararava, the flames flicker and fade, but the heat remains as we transition into Tapana. The sixth hell, Tapana in the hell of scorching heat. The intensity of suffering reaches new heights. The very air is suffocating, heavy with waves of blistering heat that rise from the ground like a furnace. Souls here are bound by iron chains, their bodies scorched by flames that seem to continue endlessly from the molten earth. The heat is unbearable, radiating from every surface, as the beings trapped here endure an agony that mirrors the uncontrollable rage they harbored in life. Those who find themselves in Tapana were driven by anger and hatred. In their lives, they lashed out, harming others with their words and actions, fueled by uncontrollable tempers. Now, the scorching flames represent the fire of their own wrath, burning them from the inside out. The iron chains symbolize how they allowed their anger to control them, binding them to destructive emotions. Tapana teaches us that anger, when left unchecked, not only harms those around us, but ultimately destroys ourselves. The Buddha compared anger to holding a burning coal that burns us long before it ever reaches the person toward whom it is directed. In this realm, the souls suffer until their karmic anger has been extinguished, and only then can they move on to be reborn in another realm. But the lesson for us in the human realm is clear. Practicing patience, loving kindness, and mindfulness can save us from the consuming fires of anger. As the flames of Tapana slowly begin to fade, the next realm emerges Pratapana, where the suffering takes an even darker turn. The seventh hell, Pratapana, in the hell of blazing flames. The torment grows even more intense. Imagine a place where molten metal pours down like rain, burning everything it touches. The landscape here is one of molten rivers and searing metal, with no place to hide from the endless downpour of fiery liquid. The heat is so extreme that even the air seems to shimmer and distort, creating a disorienting and oppressive atmosphere. In this realm, those who used harsh words and slander to harm others now face the consequences of their speech. The molten metal symbolizes the damage their words inflicted, just as their speech burned through the lives of others. Now they are burned by the very essence of their actions. The pain is relentless, just as the harm they caused was far-reaching and deep. The Buddha taught that words carry immense power. They can heal or harm, build or destroy. In Pratapana, the lesson is one of mindful speech. What we say matters, and when we use our words to harm others, we create ripples of suffering that return to us. The souls here endure until they have paid for the harm caused by their words. But eventually, they too will be released, their suffering a reminder of the importance of right speech in the human realm. As the molten rain slows, we come to the final and most terrifying of the Narakas Ovichi, the hell of ceaseless suffering. The eighth hell. Ovichi is the deepest, most feared of all the Narakas. Here, the suffering is continuous and unrelenting. Unlike the other realms, where there may be moments of respite or cycles of suffering, in Ovichi, there is no break, no pause. The landscape is one of cold, desolate darkness. The ground is frozen and cracked, and the sky above is pitch black, with no light to guide the way. The very air is oppressive, heavy with the weight of suffering that seems to have no end. In this realm, those who committed the gravest of harms, betrayals, exploitation, and actions that caused immense suffering to others now face the consequences of their most destructive actions. Here, the weight of their karmic burden is so great that it feels as if time itself has stopped, trapping them in a state of constant torment. The cold represents the emptiness of their deeds, the isolation of having harmed others so deeply that the consequences now feel inescapable. But even in Ovichi, the suffering is not eternal. Once the karmic debt has been repaid, the soul is released to be reborn. The lesson here is one of ultimate accountability. No action, no matter how severe, escapes the law of karma. Every deed has its consequence, and even in the darkest realms, there is a path to redemption. As we leave Ovichi, we reflect on the teachings of these realms. The Narakas are not meant to instill fear, but to guide us toward greater mindfulness and compassion in our actions. They remind us that every thought, word, and deed carries weight, and that by living a life rooted in kindness, wisdom, and mindfulness, we can avoid the suffering that comes from harmful actions. As our journey through the 8 great hells of Buddhist cosmology comes to an end, we are reminded of the profound lessons these realms offer. They teach us the power of karma, the consequences of our actions, and the path to living with mindfulness and compassion. But just as suffering is not eternal, our journey does not end here. In the next episode, we leave the dark realms behind and ascend to a place of balance and harmony. We'll explore Mount Meru, the center of the universe in Buddhist cosmology, a mystical and grand place that connects the heavens, the earth, and everything in between. Be sure to join us for this exploration of cosmic beauty and spiritual insight. Don't forget to subscribe to the Mythical Vault so you don't miss the next chapter of our journey through the Buddhist cosmos.